She grabbed the edge of my towel, her fingers brushing my skin, and leaned in close, her voice a low whisper. "Stay tonight. No one else is home." My heart stopped. I was standing in my best friend's bathroom, still dripping from the shower. And his mom, Mrs. Thompson, was looking at me with an intensity I'd never seen before. I froze, unsure if I'd heard her right, my mind racing to make sense of it all. Hey, before I dive into this, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. I'm curious. Alright, let's get into it. I'm Jake, 22 years old, living in Chicago in the summer of 2025. I've known my best friend, Ethan Thompson, since we were kids. We grew up together, played basketball in his driveway, and spent countless weekends at his place. His mom, Lisa Thompson, was always around, kind, welcoming, the type of mom who'd bake cookies for us and ask about school. She was in her early 40s, fit with a warm smile that made you feel at home. I never thought much of her beyond that. She was just Ethan's mom, you know. But that day, everything changed. Started like any other weekend. Ethan invited me over to his place in the suburbs to hang out. We'd been planning to catch up, maybe play some video games or watch a movie. His family had a nice house, big enough that you could crash there without feeling cramped. I'd stayed over plenty of times before, so it wasn't a big deal when Ethan said I could spend the night. His dad was away on a business trip and his younger sister was at a sleepover, so it was just us and his mom at the house. No red flags, nothing out of the ordinary. We spent the day chilling, played some hoops, ordered pizza, and talked about life. Ethan was stressing about his new job at a tech startup, and I was venting about my dead and gig at a coffee shop while trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. It was the usual stuff. Around 9 p.m., Ethan got a call from his girlfriend, Sarah. She was upset about something and he said he needed to go see her. "Dude, I'll be back in a couple hours," he told me. "Just make yourself at home." I didn't think much of it. I figured I'd shower, maybe watch some TV, and wait for him to get back. The guest bathroom was down the hall from the living room, and I grabbed a towel from the linen closet before heading in. The shower was quick, nothing special. I stepped out, wrapped the towel around my waist, and was about to head to the guest room to change when I heard a soft knock on the bathroom door. "Jake, you okay in there?" It was Lisa's voice, calm, but closer than I expected. I figured she was just checking in like she always did. "Yeah, I'm good, Mrs. Thompson." I called back, grabbing my clothes from the counter. The door creaked open slightly, and I turned expecting her to say something about extra towels or whatever, but she stepped inside, closing the door behind her. My stomach dropped. She was wearing a loose tank top and yoga pants, her hair tied back, looking like she'd just come from a workout. Her eyes locked onto mine, and there was this energy in the room I couldn't place. "Jake," she said, stepping closer, her voice softer now. "You don't have to rush off." I didn't know what she meant at first. I laughed nervously, thinking she was joking or maybe I'd misunderstood. But then she reached out, her fingers grazing the edge of my towel, and she tugged it lightly. Not enough to pull it off, but enough to make my pulse spike. "Stay tonight," she whispered, her face inches from mine. "No one else is home." I stood there frozen, my brain short-circuiting. This was Lisa, Ethan's mom, the woman who made me pancakes when I was 10. What was happening? My first instinct was to laugh it off, to assume this was some kind of weird misunderstanding. Mrs. Thompson, I should probably get dressed." I stammered, stepping back, but her expression didn't change. She didn't laugh or back off. She just held my gaze like she was waiting for me to say something else. "I'm serious, Jake," she said, her voice steady but quiet. "Ethan's gone for a while. We could talk. Just you and me." The way she said talk sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't threatening, but it wasn't innocent either. I felt the weight of the moment like I was standing at a crossroads. Part of me wanted to bolt out of there, but another part, some small stupid part, was curious. What did she mean? Why was she acting like this? I mumbled something about needing to check my phone and slipped past her, clutching the towel like my life depended on it. My heart was pounding as I made it to the guest room and shut the door. I threw on my clothes, trying to process what had just happened. Was she hitting on me? Was I imagining things? Maybe she was just being overly friendly and I was reading into it. But that whisper, that look in her eyes, it felt deliberate. I sat on the bed staring at my phone, debating whether to text Ethan. What would I even say? Hey, your mom just made a weird move on me. That sounded insane. Ethan and I were close, but not the kind of close where you drop something like that without proof. Plus, what if I was wrong? I'd look like an idiot and it could mess up our friendship. I decided to keep it to myself for now and just act normal when Ethan got back. But the night wasn't over. Around 11 p.m., I heard Ethan's car pull into the driveway. I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking things would go back to normal. He came in looking stressed, but not upset, and said Sarah had calmed down. We hung out in the living room playing some video games, but I couldn't focus. Every time Lisa walked by, I felt her eyes on me. She didn't say anything, just smiled like nothing had happened. It was driving me crazy. Around midnight, Ethan said he was exhausted and headed to bed. "You good man?" he asked, yawning. I nodded, not trusting myself to say much. After he went upstairs, I figured I'd crash on the couch in the living room. The guest room felt too close to Lisa's bedroom, and I didn't want to risk another encounter. I grabbed a blanket and settled in, trying to shake off the unease. About an hour later, I heard soft footsteps. My heart sank. The living room was dark, lit only by the faint glow of the TV I'd left on mute. Lisa appeared in the doorway, wearing a silk robe that clung to her in a way I couldn't ignore. "Can't sleep?" she asked, her voice low, almost playful. I sat up, gripping the blanket like a shield. "Yeah, just winding down," I said, keeping my tone neutral. She walked over and sat on the arm of the couch closer than I was comfortable with. "You don't have to be nervous, Jake," she said, leaning in slightly. "I meant what I said earlier. No one would know." My mouth went dry. This wasn't a misunderstanding. She was making it crystal clear. I don't know what it was. Maybe the shock, maybe the late hour, but I found myself asking, "Why are you doing this?" Came out sharper than I meant, but I needed to know. She tilted her head like she was weighing her answer. "Because I see you, Jake," she said. "You're not a kid anymore, and I'm tired of pretending I don't notice." I didn't know how to respond. Part of me was flattered. I'll admit it. Lisa was attractive, confident, and there was something thrilling about the attention. But this was Ethan's mom. It was wrong on every level. Plus, I kept thinking about Ethan upstairs, completely oblivious. If he found out, it'd destroy him. And what about Mr. Thompson? Their marriage wasn't perfect. Ethan had mentioned they'd been fighting lately, but this was a line I couldn't cross. "Mrs. Thompson, I can't," I said, standing up. "I'm sorry, but this isn't right." Her face didn't change, but I saw a flicker of disappointment in her eyes. She stood too, stepping closer, and for a second, I thought she might try something again, but she just nodded. "Okay, Jake," she said softly. "I respect that." Then she turned and walked back upstairs, leaving me alone in the dark. I barely slept that night. My mind kept replaying the whole thing, second-guessing every word, every look. By morning, I was a wreck. Ethan woke up acting like everything was normal, suggesting we grab breakfast at a diner nearby. Lisa was in the kitchen when we left, making coffee, and she smiled at me like nothing had happened. "Have fun, boys," she said, her voice cheerful. It was surreal. At the diner, I kept waiting for some kind of sign that Ethan knew something, but he was his usual self, joking about work and his girlfriend. I wanted to tell him, but every time I opened my mouth, the words wouldn't come. How do you even start that conversation? I felt guilty, like I'd done something wrong just by being there. But I hadn't, right? I'd said no. I'd walked away. When I got back to my apartment later that day, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd dodged something dangerous. I kept my distance from Ethan's place after that, making excuses about work or other plans. He noticed, asking why I wasn't coming around as much, but I brushed it off. I didn't know how to face Lisa again, and I didn't trust myself to act normal around her. A few weeks later, Ethan called me out of the blue. "Hey man, you're not going to believe this," he said, his voice tight. My stomach dropped, thinking he'd found out somehow. But it wasn't about me. He told me his parents were getting divorced. Apparently, his dad had been cheating for years, and Lisa had finally had enough. Ethan was upset, mostly for his sister, who was taking it hard. I listened, trying to be supportive, but all I could think about was that night. Had Lisa's behavior been some kind of reaction to her marriage falling apart? Was she looking for a way to feel something else? I didn't know, and I wasn't about to ask. Looking back, I still don't know what to make of it. I've never told Ethan, and I probably never will. It's not about protecting Lisa. It's about protecting him. He doesn't need to know his mom crossed that line, and I don't want to be the one to break his trust in her. But it's changed how I see things. I used to think people were predictable, that you could know someone your whole life and not be surprised I was wrong. So yeah, that's my story. It's not something I talk about often, but I figured I'd share it here. If you've got a crazy experience like this, something that threw you for a loop, drop it in the comments and let me know where you're watching from. I'm curious to see who's out there. Thanks for listening.